There's a place on the trail that's as cold as a fridge. A cramped, damp, dark tunnel under Pityself Bridge. Now Norman, the troll, loves to hide in that place with his sticky up hair and his great big sad face. He moans through the morning, he moans through the night, he argues with others and just wants to fight. He gets himself angry and kicks at the wall and never comes out when his friends come to call. He tells himself stories of how life is unfair and pushes away all of those who would care. No one understands me and nobody helps. The tunnel that echoes his cries and his yelps. Then one day when Norman sat down on a boulder, a tiny wood sprite took her seat on his shoulder. "Hey Norman," she shouted as she yanked on his stubble. "You know if you stay here you're really in trouble." So the tiny brave sprite asked for Norman to laugh, but if he can't do this, at least take a bath. She giggled and tickled his big hairy belly. "Get a wash in the stream, you're really quite smelly." So Norman stood up and he trudged to the stream, and he thought of the ways that his life could have been. The time that he'd spent as a big angry narc. The hours in the daylight he'd stayed in the dark. His reflection was scary. Where was the old Norman? He was once young and handsome, not sad, old and boring. He remembered the day he'd stepped over a ridge, then fell onto his bum under Pityself Bridge. The dark there was comfy, yet seemed to conceal his feelings of heartache and make them less real. Like a warm, snuggly blanket of blackness and tears, it felt so familiar. He'd stayed there for years. He just lost his courage when he fell onto his bum. It seemed to confuse him and make him all numb. He lost touch with his smiles and then with his laughter. Made the tiniest thing out to be a disaster. So he jumped in the stream and he had a good rinse, and he listened to Sprite as she tried to convince. We all sometimes trip, Norm. It's one thing worth knowing. We all have to fall, it's for learning and growing. Your smiles and your laughter are over that ridge, but you'll have to be brave and leave Pityself Bridge. Poor Norman was scared, it was all he had known. Held his head in his hands and let out a great groan. He summoned the courage to head over the ridge, then took long painful strides out of Pityself Bridge. He saw tulips and roses and white butterflies as the tears of his heart came to fill up his eyes. Heard children all laughing, the sounds filled his ears. He started to smile as he wiped off the tears. Looked back at the tunnel, a shadow he saw. The ghost of a troll that now lived there no more. Though his time at the bridge, it was really quite crappy. He had to learn to be sad, so we'd know how to be happy. The end.